Welcome to Mansfield Matters, your home for all things stat.
Craig's at the mic, his passion's bright, with metaphors you can't ignore, and anagrams that make us groan till everyone starts to moan.
Who is Randy Once?
We're the Mansfield Matters crew, making podcasts just for you. Some show up, some disappear, but the Stags bring us all here. Through the ups and downs we stay, talking Mansfield town every day. Where's Nathan gone? He's never on. The blind Stag's late, not gonna wait. Cam's watching Hollyoaks again. He's useless anyway. Let's just begin. We're the Mansfield Matters crew, making podcasts just for you. Some show up, some disappear, but the Stags bring us all here. Through the ups and downs we stay, talking Mansfield town every day. And now, introducing the world's greatest announcer. Alan brings the joy and light, while Clive keeps sense in sight. Nick's got shirts for every day. Jim's our super sub. Hey, hey! The chat rolls on. Your prediction. We give match reports and witty retorts, while Craig reads questions from his list that leave us all feeling pretty miffed. Time's almost up. Done! We're the Mansfield Matters crew, making podcasts just for you. Some show up, some disappear, but the Stags bring us all here. Through the ups and downs we stay, talking Mansfield town every day. That's all for this week. Probably-ish.
You know, I was thinking the other day about things that go beautifully together. Jelly and ice cream, cake and a cup of tea, Mansfield town and bloody injuries. Defeat at Wycombe Wanderers on Saturday was bad enough, but to lose two players through injury before half-time, well, that said it all, really. It derailed the Stags, and in the end, they couldn't get back into the game in what, in truth, was a poor performance. They followed that up in midweek with a 1-0 defeat to League 2 Harrogate in the cup that nobody cares about. Well, nobody except for me. We'll talk all about that on the Mansfield Matters podcast tonight, as we try and figure out who's actually going to be available for Saturday afternoon as we welcome Stevenage to One Call Stadium, a stadium which now has a brand new name for the Bishop Street stand, and they've not named it after Jordan Bowery. Join in the discussions as we share our disappointment at that and reflect on Saturday and much, much more in between. This is the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters podcast. Hello, good evening and welcome back to the Mansfield Matters podcast. It's the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Thanks so much for joining us on this Thursday evening, where, full disclosure, it's going to be a bit of a struggle of a podcast today because I'm very much in that mindset where I haven't got a clue what it is we're going to talk about, or have I got the energy to talk about it. So the next 40 minutes, hour, whatever it is that we manage to stay on for, could be a very interesting one. We might end up on a tangent talking about oranges or biscuits or bananas or the apples I picked from a tree earlier on. And speaking about picking apples, I've picked two absolute gems to join me on the Mansfield Matters podcast tonight. Well, I say two. I picked two. One of them wasn't available, so I had to, get a rotten apple, but we'll talk more about him in a minute. First and foremost, let's say hello to the Golden Delicious, It's Mr. Alan Wilson. Evening, Al.
Good evening, Craig. Good evening, everybody.
And the rotten apple, a.k.a. the Granny Smith, the one that's sour, bitter, and nobody likes. Hey, up! It's Cam.
Knew that were coming. That's not very nice.
I'm sorry. I can't resist. Look, when I'm in a mood where I can't be bothered to talk about anything, the only thing that's going to get me up and in the mood is, annoying you or slating you. So there you go. And I don't actually think that you've been on the podcast this season yet, have you?
I have, very early on. It just always falls bad times. A lot of car racing. There's a little bit of a problem.
Well, I say priorities, but there you go. Anyway, as always, if you want to have your say on your team, please, as always, get involved in the comments underneath down there somewhere. Get involved. Type it away on your little phones and we'll read out anything Stags related you want to talk about. Because let's be honest, Al, it's not been the greatest week to be a Stags fan, has it? It's always good when you're winning games and you're playing well and you're scoring goals, but we didn't score at Wycombe. We didn't play very well. We lost 2 players through injury and we lost.
Yeah, well, that's been part and parcel of the Stags fan, isn't it? That's the, what you sign up for when you want to be a Stags fan. Losing the odd game here and there, but it just wasn't a very good performance, was it? To be fair, it just a little bit lackluster. We had 2 poor injuries that I could understand. None of them were, really anybody going in bad, like a bad tackle or anything like that. They both pulled up. That one of Bolton's looked very soft. It looked as if it just stretched near the corner flag when he went off. But it's just one of those things. I'm just pleased there was nobody else injured on Tuesday night.
Yeah, we needed a lack of injuries on Tuesday night. That was the worrying thing for me, Cam, was trying to sort of come through that game unscathed. Because after you lose players like Luke Bolton, who obviously gives you that little bit of edge in attack, and the main one being Bailey Cargill, who's been an absolute rock at the heart of defence again, it becomes very frustrating. And you're like, the last thing we need is another injury, particularly to a defender, which is, in a way, why I was surprised he actually played Ryan Sweeney on Tuesday night. But I guess needed some minutes in the legs to be available for Saturday too.
Yeah, I obviously brought him on Saturday and then took him off again because he got booked. But it's that really difficult period that we always seem to go through. As soon as the transfer window shuts, we always go through a really tricky patch with results and players just picking up niggles or one player picking up a long term. It always seems that there's at least one that picks up a long term and we just miss a couple of players for a couple of games. And it's just frustrated. And I think maybe you think, could we plan ahead? Not really, because you think you look at the now released player registration list and we haven't got the space for players for sort of like backup as such. So it's difficult to plan ahead. And all right, it's Mansfield Town. We get an absolute boatload of injuries every season. But we can't just sign players for the sake of signing them just in case somebody gets injured. It's not like we're in the conference anymore and you can sign 1 million players a season. We've got to plan ahead. And there's a lot of teams that even if you brought a player in on loan, teams aren't going to want to have them sat on the bench constantly. And now we're just starting to get a couple back. Hopefully, Deji will be back soon. Reese will be out.
Sorry, who?
Dave. It's been a while. And then we get Joe Gardner back. And then you lose Luke Bolton and Bailey Cargill in the same game. So, rotten Mansfield injury look, as ever. Can't really change it at this point, can we? What do we do to change it?
Only ever happens under Clough, doesn't it? I've never known injuries so bad. Every single season, it seems to be the same thing. Yeah, Alan, we seem to find a way and get through it, don't we? It's the typical Mansfield way. But you know that something's not quite right when Jordan Bowery and has a knock comes in the same sentence, because that's the worry, isn't it? Bowery's, he's made of absolute stern stuff, is Sir Jordan, but to hear him linked with a knock's a bit of a concern, isn't it?
Well, it is, but there were no need for Jordan to be anywhere near the bench or anything on Tuesday night. Let the lad have a rest because he's done a sterling job so far this season. But there was one bright shining light. I thought with Tyler Roberts, thoroughly enjoyed his performance when he came on with his little flicks and whatever. There were just two pieces of his workmanship that like didn't come off. There one back heel that went to their player, and then another time when he passed it to one of our players and it went out. But other than that, I thought he was superb when he came on. I very much look forward to seeing him again. Well, hopefully on Saturday.
Yeah, I think for me, Cam, I'm delighted with his arrival. I'm not so encouraged by his goal return record, but I think nowadays I don't look at that. I don't look at now signing a striker and going, oh well, he only scored like 8 goals last season or whatever. Because the way that Nigel Clough's team's set up, we contribute goals from everywhere. So actually, the piece of the jigsaw is not someone that can come and put the ball in the back of the net a guaranteed 15, 20 times a season. It's someone that's going to add to that engine room and be creative. And he did look a creative spark. I just want to see him and see him perform, Cam, in a team that around him are also performing, because it's very easy, and I don't want to become across as Mr. Negative, but it's very easy, Cam, isn't it, to stand out when the rest of your players aren't putting in the effort, which was very much the case for, I'm going to say, about 70 minutes at Wycombe.
Yeah, and I think in the nicest possible way, I think that's where we get such a high opinion of players like Dave, like Bailey, like Jordan, where we shipped goals for fun last season, yet somehow the best players at the club, or perceived by the fans, are all defenders. It makes no sense. So, like you said, it's just being able to judge, giving him a fair chance to obviously get his feet under the table, and just being able to get up to speed in training. No doubt he was fit and done whatever he did at Birmingham to stay fit. He sort of like personal stuff during pre-season. Obviously, it's just the fact that is he like match fit? Is he match ready? Maybe not 100% when he first came in. Now we're getting to that point where you'd expect him to be. And a perfect opportunity for him to come in, because we knew that Regan Hendry is obviously injured, a player that would play in a similar position and the same sort of like similar sort of role that you could see him in, a bit sort of like linking up the play, which is something we have struggled with at parts this season so far. And then same again, obviously Saturday we were missing Jamie McDonnell as well. So perfect opportunities for him to come in and do a job. And now that we're starting to, so it's like obviously McDonnell's back for the weekend for after internationals, but there's no guarantee he's going to start either, because he might be a bit jet lagged. I don't know. It's difficult when you've got an international player. But
well, I will wager as much money as you want, Cam Felton, that Jamie McDonnell on Saturday will be the first name on the team sheet.
I think it kind of has to be.
Like, honestly, listen to Nigel Clough. He will play him every single week. If him and Lewis Reed are both available, they'll be the first 2 names on the team sheet, because that's where he wants to be in this setup and in this tactical setup. He looks like an absolute player. Like Matt says, he came on for 5 minutes for his country. A little bit of a cameo appearance. Nice to see him get that recognition. And actually, as much as it's quite funny what Nigel Clough said, Alan, in his press conference, he sort of alluded to it, didn't he? That he's actually glad that McDonnell got called up for the full squad, because actually he's not played. He's trained, but he's not played. So less risk of injury. So from a selfish point of view, we've win there, haven't we?
And weren't it nice to see Elliot? Well, on my perspective, but now to see Elliot Hewitt back on Tuesday night as well. I thought he had a decent game. But I do, in my opinion, I like to see Elliot in the back four. I know Kyle Noyles come in and he's done a reasonable job. But it's only my opinion. I just shade Elliot over Kyle, with his marauding down the wing and also his throw-ins.
I think it's very much the same case. We're very symmetrical on both sides. You think?
Hey, that's a big word for you.
You think with Fraser Blake Tracy at left back, you always want Macca a little bit further upfield and playing more of that sort of like wants to get in on the overlap to get the cross in. Well, Kyle Noyle and Elliot Hewitt are very much the same, and they seem to have so far a very good working relationship. They can read each other very well. And yeah, it's just we're now starting to see that where the teams are fitting in, and you throw Luke Bolton into that equation, and that right hand side is very stacked at the minute. So the fact that he's gone out is very, very frustrating.
Not quite sure what's happening, but I think we are having a few freezing issues. So just bear with us and stick with us. Maybe just give it a little bit of a refresh. I'm not quite sure what's happening tonight. Maybe the internet gremlins. Maybe the internet gremlins are getting there, but it will catch up with itself and it will get there. So apologies if you're having a little bit of a freeze. Just maybe close it down, come back again in a minute, and give it a refresh and call it. I don't want to throw it. I don't want to sort of accuse anyone, but someone's not been on for a while, and Anyway, let's move on, shall we? Talking of missing players and things like that, obviously Bailey Cargill is a big miss. Alan obviously went off injured at Wycombe. And Dale in the comments asks, with the injuries we have, do you think we are strong enough to compete against the Stevenage side with the form that they're in? They've had a great start to the League One campaign, no doubt at all. But I don't know, there's something about Mansfield Town when we've got injuries where, we tend to rally around and do better than expected, don't we?
We do. When you'd say your first 11 can't go out as the first 11, you get the reserves in or the people that are standing places. They always seem to perform well. You look at Aaron Lewis. Whenever Aaron Lewis, who was man of the match Tuesday night, or was given man of the match Tuesday night, I thought he had a decent game, and he seems to be the new free kick taker as well, doesn't he? But that the people that step in usually do a reasonable job. So I've got no qualms with whatever team it puts out on Saturday. I'm sure they'll give him a damn good go.
If you are still watching on Facebook, by the way, and it is still freezing for you, head over to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/MTFC Matters. Just search Mansfield Matters on there, and you'll find exactly the same stream on there. Apparently, it's all good and all fine on there. So if you're having problems watching on the old Faceache, head over to YouTube and get it on there as well. And stick with us and get your comments coming in. What was I saying? I was talking injuries, wasn't I? Anyone from Tuesday night, Cam, that you think Nigel Clough might have had a look at Tuesday night and thought with the injury situation, you might be a shoo-in for Saturday? Ryan Sweeney aside, that's a given.
If I'm totally honest, I think I turned it off at half time. It was terrible. It was an awful game. What is it about Harrogate? We just don't.
Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next week.
Other than the season that we went up, we've never particularly done well against Harrogate.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think it's just going to be who's fit. I don't really think there's going to be anybody that's not banging on his door. I think it'll be another one of these jobs where we just stick a team out that's first and foremost fully fit, and secondly, we know in a system that's going to work for us. I don't particularly. I think it's that, like you alluded to, it's going to be one of them games where we just potentially we're just gonna see like Mansfield turn into like prime Barcelona or something daft like we do when we've got a boatload of injuries. We just randomly pull this out, and I think. Going back to Dale's comment about Stevenage being in such a good form, you look at a team like Stevenage in League One and the teams around them. Stevenage are very much an elephant at the top of a tree. Don't know how they got there, but we know they're not going to stay there for long. Because Sutton did it for many, many years in League Two before they eventually dropped out of the league. And it's just, you just know that they can't sustain it. And same again, Jamie Reid, main player, played nearly every minute for Northern Ireland, whereas Jamie McDonald's only had a cameo. So hopefully we can get him out of the game. He'll be tired still, hopefully. But I think it's just that we can't be scared of anybody. I think if we're too cautious in our approach, we're going to get beaten because we're going to be just scared of making a mistake. And point proven last season, when we know we're under the cosh and we just play like we know we can play, we're fine. But if we're forced into a style of play that we're not comfortable with, especially against a team that are doing well, we just don't. We're going to crumble. So hopefully we can we just need to settle into the game. 15 minutes, nothing silly. Don't concede a goal, and then see where we are. Reassess and just take it from there.
I think what Saturday will be, Alan, is also a big opportunity for players. I think been absolutely no doubt that Jordan Bowery and Bailey Cargill have been absolutely phenomenal together. They have been arguably one of the best centre-back pairings for many, many a season. I'm going all the way back to, the Evans era, the Flitcroft era. I think those two have been an absolute solid pairing, and it will be a shame to split them up, and it was a shame to split them up. I don't think Clough will go back to playing 5 at the back. I think he's sort of learnt a little bit with he's learnt a little bit from that. I think he sees the value in the players that he's got now of playing this 4-2-3-1 or 4-1 whatever, and going with more of a settled back four. And I think one thing which sort of springs to mind with that is Ryan Sweeney, for whatever reason so far early in this season, has become the scapegoat, hasn't he? He's become the man who everyone thinks has got, the opposite of the Midas touch. He thinks that everything that, everything he touches just falls apart. It doesn't. He's our captain for a reason. He's a solid central defender. He was an excellent player for us when he was here before, playing in a back four. I'm emphasising that, playing in a back four. And also, as we shouldn't have really let him go, but we had to in terms of him developing his career. He went away and he's proved more than he's worth. He could easily be playing, at other League One levels as well. But for whatever reason, he's taking a little bit of a flack this season. It's a good opportunity, I think, for him to come in and establish himself. Because let's not forget, start of the season when he was starting, Alan, he was starting in a back three, and he's left-footed. And this is my point with a back three. When you're playing the wing-back system, ideally, your 3 centre-backs needs to be a right footer on the right-hand side, someone that can play with both feet comfortably in the middle, and a left footer on the left. But due to injuries and player unavailability and all of that, you had 2 left footers and 1 right footer who really was a wing-back, not wanting to play there and playing in emergency. So it didn't quite fit. Yet again, with Mansfield, when we try these things, it's square pegs, round holes. We always do these things when we've not got the people available rather than when we have. We should learn from that lesson. We then went on to lose those games, and he was making a few mistakes, or was perceived to making a few mistakes, because he probably wasn't comfortable with the position. Again, you look at where he played for Burton in the last couple of seasons, either the left-hand side of a 3 or the left centre of a 2, a central 2. Saturday, we should play in that back with that back 4, and he will take Bailey Cargill's slot if Cargill is unavailable, which he 99% will be. So we'll play in his more natural position, the position he played years and years ago for us when he was fantastic and, really proved himself. And I thought on Tuesday night, he had a relatively comfortable game playing in that position as well. And the only reason at Stevenage he didn't really, get into the game, imagine being told you're sub and sort of not, preparing to maybe come on later in the game or whatever. 6 minutes in, you've got to come on. You take the captain's armband because that's what you do. You're playing in a position which you've not really played in for a while, alongside someone that you've not played with regularly before in Jordan Bowery, and against a side who have made 4 or 5 signings on deadline day, who have struggled to the start of the season and really, want to try and win a game of football. He makes a little bit of he doesn't impose himself early doors. He gets ahead on the ball for the goal, but he doesn't head it in the direction it needs to go, and they go and score from it, knocks his confidence. Then he goes to gets booked, and then he gets taken off at half-time, and everyone goes, oh, he's got taken off because he was absolute rubbish. No, he got taken off because he was on a yellow card. And realistically, if he'd got sent off, which, let's be honest, out of him and Jordan Bowery, he was the more likely to get a second yellow card. We cannot afford to lose another left-sided centre-half. So it had to be. And like Thomas just said, didn't Nigel mention something about him playing cautiously as if he's carrying a knock and trying to not make it worse? Exactly that as well. Those little factors. So I think Saturday, Al, could be the prime opportunity for Captain Sweeney to really take that armband, grasp it and say, this is my position. Bailey, if you want it back, we're going to have to fight for it.
Well, when you've got, when they've got free kicks and corners, and you've got Pirgiani coming in at you, he's got to be ready, and he's got to be on his mettle, hasn't he? And like we say, I would say 99% certain he'll be playing at the side of Jordan Barry. They haven't played as a partnership apart from in training or whenever they do train, so it's going to take a while. But it just seems, it got to fit somebody in. And when Sweeney went in with Cargill at the side of him, you've got two left footers. And like I've said before, it put Cargill over to the left to be like a left back in a three. Yeah. Cargill can play left back, but is predominantly a left centre half, that's where he's best. And you've got Blake Tracy and Macca who can do that role, or McAdam if need be. And that's it. But when you're playing a back three, you've got to fit someone in somewhere. It will be so interesting when Dave comes back to see, he's going to have to do what Sweeney did and fight his way back, because Jordan is playing out of his skin. So like you say, it's going to be really interesting Saturday, because if Sweeney stands firm, like we know he can do, it should be a good partnership with Jordan, and if providing they talk to each other, which I'm sure they will, they just need a good start, a good clearance, a good tackle, whatever, to get the confidence going, and we'll see a different Sweeney, I think.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you got to remember, Cam, when he was here before, people sometimes go, he was here under Clough before and he only had that one season. No, it goes back further than that, and he really progressed with us. And I think he's one of those centre-backs that can be really dominant for us. And I think we'll see a lot of him utilised in both boxes. You tend to see it, don't you? When Sweeney's on the pitch, he'll stay up for throws. We'll utilise the long throw a little bit, a little bit more, a little bit, not to the ex-Skowhegan standard of long throws. We'll never hit those beautiful heights again. But, we do tend to do it. And then from corners and set pieces, he stays up for the second phase of play, and he gives us that other threat, which Cargill it's not necessarily his role. So big opportunity for him, but not everyone's a massive fan, are they, Cam?
Yeah, sorry, just going off on the tangent. No. You'll appreciate this one. I've been playing Football Manager 2009 on my Sony PSP. So I've literally Lee Beavers and Big X are the first two signings, go-to signings. Easy, win the league.
Literally throw yourself out of the league.
Yes. But yeah, I think Sweeney previously, I think fantastic player. Everything started to fall to pieces as soon as Matt Preston left and Christian Pearce left. And the place that we replaced them with are sort of like Farron Rawson, who good on his day, but not like the most consistent performer. And then you look at was a much better player the season we reached Wembley compared to the COVID season. And the goalkeeper behind Sweeney wasn't exactly the best at commanding his area and telling his defenders what to do in Aidan Stone. And you can just look and you see this sort of like how we've developed as a team. And we sort of like, a lot of the time it's just dependent on what keeper we've had. You think we went from, during the COVID season, a balance between Marek Steck, Jamie Partington for a brief moment, and Aidan Stone. We then had Nathan Bishop, and then we had Christy Pym, they're all very different. So you just look at the dynamic that we've got. And the dynamic didn't work during the COVID season between Stone, Steck, and Sweeney. And obviously Sweeney thought that it was time for a change, and great, he needed it, and he's gone and come back a better player. But now he's come back and he's got undoubtedly better players around him when he was here first time. So I think, you forget he's also sort of like not been in and around the Mansfield setup for all that long. We're still seeing players gel. Yes, he was here before, completely different circumstances. So I think as much as people are saying I've not been impressed, you look at some players that have been here a very long time that have just not performed to the same ability this season. You think Lewis Reed has not not been the Lewis Reed we know, but since Sweeney's been out of the team and Lewis Reed's took the captain's armband, has been a much better player. And it's just like being able to stand up and be counted as a captain. And this is the same problem we've always had. It's finding players to fit a style and then just getting them settled in that style. Because this is the same style that Clough's played for a very long time. And we know that it takes a while for players to adjust to it.
It's like he's been saying in his press conferences, though, isn't it? You know, we're nowhere near the finished article. We're not going to be the finished article to probably October, November side when it clicks. And he did in his head. I think he did in his head, and he's got to hold his hands up, Alan, and sort of admit this. I think his plan for this season was to play with a back three all season, and he's seen it's not working. Injuries and whatever and availability has made him go to a back four. He's gone, oh, actually, our players fit this a lot better, and now we're going to do this. So it wouldn't surprise me, actually, in January to see a few more subtle tweaks in terms of players to fit those positions to play this system a little bit better. But it's like Cam was saying there about, you know, players coming into their own in positions. Lewis Reed doesn't perform well when we play a back three because he's a little bit lost in that midfield because he's got to play a bit of a different role. But put him in front of a back four alongside Jane McDonnell, and he's absolutely fantastic. It's like that partnership thing, isn't it? You know, certain players work well with certain other players alongside them when it's understanding the roles. Because if you ask me, did Lewis, did we have a decent defensive midfield at Wycombe? No, we didn't. But you look who was missing, and nobody understood that role. You know, Lewis Reed didn't perform to his best abilities because he didn't have that yin and yang next to him, did he? He didn't have that magnet to sort of, bounce with and to zing with.
It was same to a certain degree from what I can remember at the start of the season of Regan Hendry.
Yes,
he looked a little bit lost, but come the Blackpool game and the Leyton Orient game, it looked a well beater. And I was getting friends text me saying, "You watch this Hendry chap; he will be one hell of a player." And I mean, it's just unfortunate he's got injured, but I don't think, from what Nigel was saying, it's as bad as what they thought. I think it's just a 6 week, isn't it, from what I can gather? But so let's hope on the positive side. But going back to Sweeney and, where they're going to fit into the side, I'm sure he'll come into his own. Just give him time and a run of games. And it's, like your Dave, when he comes back, he's going to have to find the same, motivation. He's going to have to wait for an injury or, to loss of form to get back into the side.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt says, I think McDonnell makes Reed look better. Last game without him, Reed looked lost. Completely agree. Not been impressed with Sweeney, says Simon, too slow, puts teammates under pressure and haven't seen any captain material as well. Tom says, I'd like to see Dwyer more like he was last season, but one up top doesn't help him. That's the thing, isn't it? As much as we're talking about how much the system Cam has impacted on the likes of Bailey Cargill, Jordan Bowery, Lewis Reed, Joe McDonnell, Regan Hendry, you move further up the pitch. It's not doing Will Evans any favours. It's not doing Dom Dwyer any favours because, you're only playing with one striker. So how do you counterbalance it? You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. What do you sacrifice? Because personally, I'd rather I would rather us sacrifice having that second striker in favour of being more defensively solid and being able to build through the pitch and look more comfortable on the ball than having two strikers, being able to put the ball in the back of the net maybe more frequently, but looking so susceptible on the counter, which we were. When we play a back three, it's very easy for teams to get in behind us.
It is. And then you also look at it the other way. When we've not got the personnel available, you look how flat we are up front because we're not able to feed our strikers. And I think you look at sort of like trying to think Doncaster, literally the first two games of the season, Burton and Doncaster creating loads, couldn't finish it off though because that final pass into the forwards was poor, or the final cross was poor. Just the end product just wasn't there. So as much as we need strength up front, because let's be real, we need to be able to score more goals. I think that's something we have struggled with for a while, and we've not really replaced Mr. Keeler Dunn. And you'd say, right, oh yeah, well, Gregory scored double figures before he got injured. Yeah, well, he got injured, so and we never replaced him, and we stayed up by the skin of our teeth. And I'd like to think that we're not going to make the same mistakes now. So I think bringing somebody like Tyler Roberts in, not only I think he will pitch in, I think he'll also help everybody around him, because we've been so flat creatively because we've just completely lost the midfield. How many times against Burton did we lose battles in the midfield? How many times against Doncaster did we lose battles in the midfield? Even games where we look comfortable, for example, against Leyton Orient, they had 10 men and still caused us problems. We're just not functioning that midfield very well at the minute. And like we said, it's just that we forget we're not even halfway through September yet, and we've still got players coming back from injury. We have players coming back from international. We've not seen a fully, like you said, Nigel said it numerous times in numerous press conferences, we are not the finished product yet, and we're still building and we're still trying things, and players are getting up to fitness, and we're not quite seeing the same players that we did last season. But you think someone like Dom Dwyer's come in at the business end of the season, scored goals, helped us stay up. Now there's not quite as much pressure, but now it's a case of we've replaced so many players that work in and around him.
We've made 11. We've made 11 signings over the close season. Tyler Roberts is the 11th signing of the summer.
It takes time to gel.
Yeah, exactly. That's essentially that's a new team, isn't it? It is a new team.
And we brought Tyler Roberts in on, was it deadline day?
On deadline day, yeah.
Yeah. And we've not even played a full strength team since he's come in. Because of injuries, because of internationals. So who's to say stick Tyler Roberts in that midfield with Lewis Reed or Jamie McDonald or whoever? Dom Dwyer might turn into a world beater because he's got that service. We don't know, because we're still figuring things out. And it is a little bit frustrating that it's that same sort of like period of the season that we always go through. But we trust Nigel. We know his style. We know his system, how he works. We know and trust that he's going to get everything right in the end.
It always comes good in the end. And it's a long old season. Go on, Al.
Would you start with Evans and Dwyer on Saturday?
If you do, you've got to put one of them out wide, haven't you? Evans has got to go out wide. Yeah. I think there is something in that. I mean, I love Will Evans. I think his character is fantastic. I just love the fact that he's posh, and when he goes like half posh, and when he's slagging off referees. Hey, referee, old chap, that is never a foul. One did not touch one. One did not touch one. And he's unconventional route into football as well. And as good as the lad is, he's a confidence player, but he is not an out-and-out centre-forward finisher. You look at the goals that he scored last season, a lot of them came from work from other players, a la Lee Gregory. And again, it's that yin and yang, it's that partnership, isn't it? It's that Mr. and Mrs. relationship. But stick him out wide, that's where he really thrived for Newport when he was there. Albeit he was sat a little bit deeper at left wing back. Don't tell Clough too much about that. But I think the system that we play in the 4-2-3-1, him on the left-hand side, you know, to interchange, to maybe play 70, 75 minutes down that left-hand side can be really dangerous, because the flexibility we have within our squad allows us to go to a 2, or for him to go central and for Hendry to go wide and him to drop into the 10 role. It's so fluid and so flexible within that setup that could work. And actually, if you get someone like Evans running at you down the channels and getting a good ball into the box, that's where someone like Dom Dwyer will thrive. Because if you go back and watch some of the games last season, that's what happened. Evans got into a wider position because he was forced wider through injuries, put some balls in the box, and Dwyer finished them off. You have to really sort of, you've got to give it a go, haven't you? So, yes. Anyway, right. We are going to take a very, very quick break, a 30-second break. Cam might not be back in 30 seconds, but he will be back. We've got plenty more to talk about tonight. He's just sent me a private message in our little private chat. It said, half-time whistle soon. I need to fetch my helmet for the second half. I am a bit worried when you say the word helmet.
Sorry, I mute myself. You know exactly what I mean, knowing what's coming up in the second half of the podcast.
Are we talking initials if we were to sort of say LA?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, right. We need to be a bit careful around that, but we will mention it briefly. But right, go and fetch your hard hat and get yourself a drink. You guys at home, get yourself a drink as well. I'm going to do a little bit longer this time than what I usually do on the breaks, but there's a reason for it, and that is, if you're watching on the Facebook feed at the moment and you've had a few issues or whatever with it, then I would suggest heading over to our YouTube page, which is linked in the comments. I've dropped it in the comments because it's working perfectly fine on there. Just search Mansfield Matters on YouTube, come back and watch it, and we'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
We're the Mansfield Matters crew, making podcasts just for you. Some show up, some disappear, but the Stags bring us all here. Through the ups and downs we stay, talking Mansfield Town every day.
You're back with the Mansfield Matters podcast, the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. And welcome if you've joined us over on YouTube. Bookmark our page if you're watching for the first time on YouTube. It tends to work better on there. And in future, I've heard a little whisper on the social media channels that Facebook are going to be phasing out longer live videos. So in future, we may have to go to the old YouTube full time. But there you go. Anyway, right. Cam said to me before the break, he's going to fetch his hard hat for the second half. He hasn't produced a physical hard hat, which I'm disappointed at.
It's not a hard hat, but it'll do.
All that build up.
It's like he should be on a gondola.
It was just the closest hat to me, but yeah, this is going to be interesting.
So, for those who haven't seen, now we need to be very careful about this, and I can't stress this enough. So, if you start going off on a tangent and start saying things that might get us in trouble, I will remove you. I know you know, but just be warned. So, the situation, we're talking Lucas Akins. The Stags have submitted their squad list to the AFL this week, which they have to do in terms of contracted players. I can't emphasize that enough. So we can still go out and sign free agents and register them. So if Lee Gregory gets fit in the next week or whatever, we could, as I understand it, I could be wrong, but we could sign him on a contract because at the moment he is not a contracted player and register him and play him. Same for free agents. If any free agents out there, we can go out there and sign them, and they can still, we can still sign them, etc., etc., etc. The Lucas Akins situation is a little bit different. Now, at the end of last season, when we released the retain list, the club declined to comment or just omitted Lucas Akins' name from the retain list because they were still talking about what was going to happen. Obviously, currently serving time in prison for the incident which happened a few years ago and which was obviously in court earlier this year. And none of us were none the wiser as to what was happening in terms of, are we still paying him? Is he still a contracted player, etc., etc.? The fact that we have submitted the EFL squad list this week with his name on it suggests that he is still a contracted player. And the debate for me, Cam, shouldn't be around whether or not we give Lucas Akins a contract based on what's happened over the last 6-7 months and the incident, which is obviously very sad and is quite controversial in some circles. The real debate should be whether or not we give him a contract as a footballer, because had all of that not happened at the back end of last season, when it came to talking about recontracting players, I would have personally released him last season anyway, regardless, because I don't think he's what we need for League One. He's obviously a good utility player to have and a handy player to have around the building. But given the whole conversation about wanting to reduce the age, wanting to sort of look at other positions, I don't think we particularly need him, especially in terms of where we're likely to play him anyway. The situation around him currently serving time in prison for the incident which happened, that adds a whole new level to it. And I guess that's why you're saying you need to put your hard hat on for this bit.
I think, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. I think, without trying to put your foot in your mouth, it is so difficult to talk about. But it's something that was obviously going to crop up, and it's something that's been very hot topic in the Facebook groups. And it's just easier if we talk about it rather than just like brushing it aside, because we're going to have issues whether he comes back or not by the virtue that he's on that list. If he comes back and he plays, we're then going to have a sort of like situation where we've already got fans that turned against him when he played after being in court. But then on the other side of things, we're also going to have away fans that are then going to cause issues and vice versa when we go to other grounds. We've then got the issue of, is he going to fit in with the rest of the team? Are the rest of the team going to be like, is that then going to become a squad morale issue, and the dynamic and the chemistry then also going to be an issue as well? And I think considering it's been going on for so long, the players that have been here long term have sort of like, by the by, got on with it. Are the new players going to have an issue with it? There's just too much to look at. And like you said, by the virtue that he's on that list, then like you could have released him at the end of last season. I think the only thing that might have changed Nigel's mind would have been the situation that we're in with Lee Gregory. I think that's the only reason we might have kept him around, is that big player up front that's strong, can hold up a ball. I think that's the only reason we might have kept him around, just in case Gregory wasn't fit and we couldn't bring anybody else in that fit that bill. I think that's the only way that we could have kept him. And it's such a difficult position to be in now, and obviously the club have not commented on it yet.
Which is as a communications person, which is exactly the stance I would take as well. Exactly the stance I would take. The right stance. The club have done everything right, I think, in that, just constantly refusing to comment.
I think just purely based on a little bit of the backlash that we're now getting on socials, I think maybe the club could have come out and said, we are still evaluating and assessing the situation. We won't comment further, because as far as we're aware, the club have just not brushed it under the carpet, but they just staying silent on it isn't also helping potentially. And it's such a difficult thing to talk about.
Well, I can defend the club slightly on that because I found the article from the BBC. So this is what BBC Radio Nottingham Sport shared early today. It's an article on the BBC's website. It reads as follows: Jailed footballer Lucas Akins has been included in Mansfield Town's squad list for this season and will be free to restart his career when released. The 36-year-old began a 14-month prison sentence in April after pleading guilty to causing the death of a cyclist by careless or inconsiderate driving in March 2022. He's understood to be available for release after serving half that sentence, with the remaining 7 months to be served on licence. It means Akins could play for the League One side before Christmas. In May, when Mansfield confirmed its retained list, the club stated that it was continuing to consider its position regarding the striker, whose deal at the club was thought to have expired at the end of last season. The squad list, as published on the English Football League website, are confirmation of which players clubs have under contract, registered and available for the season. In response to BBC Sport questions about the squad list, Mansfield said the club will review Lucas's position as and when he is released from custody and will make no further comment at the time. And then the rest of the article is obviously about what happened, etc., etc., etc. The realistic thing about that article is, it's public knowledge because all squad lists are published on the EFL's website, and it's free for the public to use. It's a newsworthy story because of the situation, but us as fans, as a podcast platform, as whatever, should not be having any conversations whatsoever about the situation regarding custody, etc., etc., etc. The only conversation we should be having is whether or not he should be playing for the Stags at 36-year-old, having had X amount of years with us, having played in various positions. He doesn't really have a set position for me, Alan. We utilise him as a utility man. And if we're honest now, you look at the signings that we brought in over the summer, which we would have be bringing in anyway, regardless of what happened, it pushes him further down the pecking order. And realistically, he would have been what Stephen Quinn was last year, Uncle Stephen was last year, which is a bit part player and utilised if and when things get really bad. I think Cam's got a point about the Lee Gregory situation, which had obviously happened pre-court and pre-everything, etc., etc. The only conversations we should be having and we should give any attention to is whether or not he is fit to play for Mansfield Town as a 36-year-old, given all those things, taking the prison thing out of it. It's a really tough situation, and fans on social media, we've got no real right to be discussing those things because we actually don't know the personal situation behind it. We don't have all the facts, and this is why people slag me off during the transfer window when I say I don't care about rumours. People will come up to me and say, have you heard the rumour about this player? You heard the rumour about that player? Could not give two flying F words because there is no fact behind those rumours. Likewise, we haven't got the facts around this situation which the club are dealing with. So the only conversations we should be having is about on the pitch, not the off the pitch thing. He's been registered. That's it. That's the only conversation we should be having is, should we have given him a contract as a footballer at the end of last season when his contract ran out? That's all we should be talking about.
So at the end of the day, Craig, Mansfield Town will do exactly, in their best interest and Lucas's best interest. Like you say, it's not for us to say what's gone in the past. For football terms, if he comes back, we should support him, as a Mansfield Town player if that's what happens. And I'm sure a lot of people, 80% of people will do that. But, I've got no qualms either way. If Lucas comes back, I'll support him 100% because, he has been a Mansfield Town player. We know what's happened. He's done his time, things like that. It's an awkward situation. But footballing terms, if he comes back from Mansfield Town and puts the shirt on again, I will support him.
And there's just one thing I want to throw into the mix to end this conversation and move on. Like we say, we do not know the facts. We do not know the details of every single player's contract who plays for Mansfield Town Football Club. For all we know, Lucas Akins last season may well have had a clause in his contract which says if I play a certain amount of games, I get an automatic 1-year extension. If that happened, then why wouldn't we register him? Do you know what I mean? Because he's under contract. So we don't know the facts from a contract point of view. We don't know the facts from a footballing point of view of what Nigel Clough wants to do. And that is where we should end the conversation. And we as a podcast will not talk about it again until such a point comes where we have some clarity from the club. Simple as, end of, game over. Right, let's move on to some more Mansfield Town related news this week. And that is, Cam, that the Jordan Bowery Bishop Street stand has a name.
I don't care. It's not the right name. Moving on. It's a non-story. Moving on.
So the Bishop Street stand has been named this week. If you've missed it, and you know what? I'm going to take a bit of flack for this. Right, a few weeks ago on the podcast, I said Sir Jordan Bowery needs something. Obviously, you know, Will Evans has got a knighthood now, as is Rhys Oates for scoring. You've got Liam Roberts in goal because of his excellent performance. But Jordan Bowery, who's been here for many a year, one of our longest serving players. In fact, the longest serving player. I think McLaughlin is second in that.
Matt signed 5 years ago yesterday, day before.
But he signed later in the season. Yeah. He signed later in that season. He was a late addition, wasn't he? Whereas Bowery signed in the summer. So by proxy, Bowery is the longest serving player. And he's also reached, a milestone this week as well, hasn't he? I think, what was it, 250 appearances, etc. But he gets very little recognition for that. So I thought the newly renovated Bishop Street stand with the best damn toilets in the land would have been the perfect opportunity to name it. But alas, no, the Radfords had other ideas. Mansfield Town Football Club are pleased to announce that the newly renovated Bishop Street stand at One Call Stadium has been named the Radford Family Stand, sponsored by John Sankey Estate Agents, who are they're my landlords, so to be fair, they're all right, in association with the Mortgage Store Mansfield. Right, it's been renamed. Its renaming has been made in honour of the club's owners, John and Carolyn Radford, and their family, whose under whose tenure the club has enjoyed one of the most successful periods in Mansfield Town's history. The duo have overseen 2 promotions, built a state-of-the-art training facility, re-established the club's academy, and seen home attendances quadruple, among many other achievements. Now, I have absolutely no problem whatsoever in the Radfords getting recognition, and I will always give them recognition for what they deserve. However, training ground is half named after him. He's got his business on the front of the home shirts. The stadium is named after his business. The marquee up on the fan zone is named after him. What more do you want naming after you? I love you. You're a fantastic man. Carolyn's a fantastic person as well. But please, Jordan Bowery needs something.
Well, they'll give it. Jordan Bowery will get his own credentials when he gets the Player of the Season at the end of the season.
He'll get injured, Alan. That's a cursed trophy.
He won't get injured. Jordan Bowery doesn't get injured. He gets a knock, slight knock, but he don't get injured. And I think at the end of the game, when it's all sorted out, it does look really nice. And I think it'll just finish it off when we get the John Sankey clock in the middle. I assume that's where it's going to go. I know Steve Imus is sorting that out. He's still got the clock. And,
I think
unofficially, it will look really good.
Unofficially, I think he has said in the previously, like when the stand.
I know he said it in the past that he had it, and it's
in his garage, wasn't it? I believe.
Get it on the North.
Well, it needs sorting out first.
Listen, look,
you can't just chuck things up, Cam. You can't just chuck it up there. It's got to be right.
Actually, no, fair point. It took us a year and a bit to open the stand.
It did.
Poor Sid.
And exactly. Poor Sid. But I mean, he has got. Apparently, there is a blue plaque in the toilet saying the Sid Pepper toilets. I don't know how true that is, but if there's not, there needs to be one down there.
I will check on Saturday.
Please do. And if there's not one down there, we'll get one made and we'll sneak one down there. But listen, the Radfords are fantastic. I would love to have them on the podcast and do a special live night with them. I've got nothing but honor, love, and respect for them. But come on, it didn't need to be named that, did it? It's a mouthful. It doesn't need two sponsors either. That's just commercial greed, because that's just a mouthful. The Radford family, no one can actually remember its proper title because it's too long. The Jordan Bowery Bishop Street stand, it's short, it's concise, it's fair, it works. And forever on this podcast, like Des Yojalada's called Dave, like Stephen Quinn's called Uncle Stephen, like many other things, the Bishop Street stand will forever and a day be called the Jordan Bowery Bishop Street stand. End of.
Craig, move on. Next topic.
Right. It's in the past. Move on.
He loves a rant, does Craig?
Listen, it's all about entertainment. I said at the start of this podcast that I couldn't be bothered, so I needed, I needed to get something out of my system.
Let's move towards JB9.
I do feel sorry for Alan because I'm sure the names of everything just keep getting longer and longer. Because you have all on saying Stag Super Draw a million times a game. And now it's the Radford the Radford family stand. Yeah, I can't remember it. I am so glad my season ticket got printed before the sponsorship came in, so it just says Bishop Street stand at this point.
I'd get a Sharpie and write Jordan Bowery Bishop Street stand on it for you. Right, let's move on to some more positive news elsewhere, because it's not been great on the pitch, but let's talk about our future, Alan. And the Stags have made a signing this week. Well, more truthfully, the Stags under-21s have. Mansfield Town under-21s are pleased to announce the signing of forward Jack Goodman. I hope he's a good lad. From Basford United. The 20-year-old will rejoin the Northern Premier League Division 1 Midlands side, that's a mouthful, for the remainder of the campaign, in a deal that has been seen Cormac Mayer make a temporary switch to Greenwich Avenue. Jack came through the ranks at Doncaster Rovers and made his first team debut at the age of 16 as a substitute in a 3-2 EFL Trophy victory over Scunthorpe. Following a loan spell at Stamford United, Jack made his league debut for Donny as a half-time sub against Crewe. He embarked on a series of non-league loans, making temporary switches to Gainsborough Trinity, where he netted his first senior goal, and Matlock Town in the 2023-24 campaign. The striker then enjoyed spells with both Peterborough Sports and Bradford Park Avenue in the following season before joining Willis Francis Basford in January. Jack made then the switch permanent to the Ambers following his release from Doncaster, and he's now obviously signed for the Stags under-21s. The last young player we signed from Basford, Alan, didn't turn out too bad, did he? Just a shame we let him go for free and didn't develop him enough like we should have done last year. But
that Mr. Gale?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to say it sounds all right, this young lad. There's some rave reports about him. He certainly knows where the net is, apparently. Let's hope he comes to fruition, a couple of years or a year or so down the line.
I think that's what we need to be doing, though, as a club. We need to bring young players through, but we also need to keep an eye on our local clubs and identify young talent and give them an opportunity. There's going to be no pressure on him, Cam, to break into the first team environment anytime soon. He'll tick away in the under-21s, get a bit of experience, and next season we'll probably see him flirting around pre-season, the EFL Trophy, etc., etc.
Yeah. I thought, sorry, Cam. I thought Ollie Taylor did well on Tuesday night as well when he came on.
Yeah, to be honest, from the game that I did watch, I got bored of putting the game on. It's terrible. I think the club even cared that little. They didn't even put the scoreboard on. So,
well, that's more due to the fact that the new LED's gone down the far side, and they're working on the getting all of that wired up and everything. I've said it before. I said it again. Rip that scoreboard down. Now it's not needed. Anyway, can we go back to young good lad, good man, good lad, good man. Good lad, young good lad.
I think, I think there's two ways of looking at this one. Firstly, great talent, it would appear, and nice that we managed to get him tied down to a contract. And like Alan said, year and a half, see him flirting around in the first team, in and out pre-seasons, cup games, etc. I I'm going to turn into Craig. I'm going to turn into a pessimist. Does this not then null and void anything that we're doing with the academy if we're just going to sign somebody else's players?
I don't think so, because with the academy, you've got to identify talent, haven't you? So
yeah, it should add to it.
You do, but like totally homegrown players. The last one we had was Jimmy Knowles. Everybody else has been a byproduct of
Owen Mason.
Who would I thought we signed Owen from somebody. I mean, not current players, as in like players that have been and gone and done something else since then. Because everybody that we have, sort of like young player wise, has gone a considerable lower level than where we are. But what I'm saying is, we've got so many players on our books in the youth setup, and we're now just. Don't get me wrong, it'll turn out to be a good player, or hope he does. But is that not then a bit of a kick in the nuts to another young striker that's been with us since the under-9s? Or I don't know how to, like, just thinking, yeah, I don't really know what to think. It'll be a good player, but yeah, is that not just like, right, well, if you're a player in the under-18s at the minute, you're like, right, I need that number one starting spot up front, and then the club have just gone and signed another player, you're like, not annoying a little bit?
This is getting too pessimistic for me.
You can take it two ways, can't you? You could say, oh no, and they've just signed somebody, or oh well, I'll show him, I'll get as good as him.
There you go.
I was a bit upset when Jimmy Knowles went, because I got a nice little name for him. I fair waited to say Jimmy the Goals Knowles, but never came to fruition, I'm afraid.
Oh, what's this lad's first name again? Can't remember what his first name is now.
You say James?
Let's say
Jamie.
Yeah, let's go with that. Let's go. No, Jack. So Jack. It's going to be Jack the Goalsman Goodman. There you go.
Yeah, that'll do.
Sort it all for you.
We'll go with that.
By the way, I apologise. Someone's corrected me. I think Gail actually signed from Long Eaton. And on that note, here's podcast predictions.
The game of luck, who gives up, don't mess it up. I hear you say, how do you play? Win, lose or draw, then pick a score and one more thing. Pick a hero, don't score zero, that's the game. But we're not fools, this game has rules. It gets on time, you'll be fine, remember the rhyme. Remember the rhyme. Yes, on time, you'll be fine. Remember the rhyme. The death predictions.
Right, podcast predictions then. Let's first and foremost go through, in case you missed it on social media in the week, results from match 7. It was an awful game and an awful performance all round for podcast predictions. The winner with just 9 points was Nutty Stag, and the overall standings, the top 3 as it stands: Sam Pateman in 3rd on 68 points, Olivia Wilson in 2nd on 74, Matt Piercy still leading the way on 78, and in the Mansfield Matters League, in 3rd place, it's Alan on 31 points. Joint 2nd place is Clive and Jim, 46 points apiece. And leading the pack, this guy on 50 points. So let's just end the count now and stop the game, and I'll just take the winner's medal. If you're interested in fantasy points, by the way, very bad choices on Saturday at Wycombe. The top players would have only scored you 3 points. They were Tyler Roberts, Kyle Noyle, and old Will Evans. 2 points was little Nobby Welsh, Giorgio Mauricio, Louis Reed and Ryan Sweeney. -1 for anyone else who played in that game, and -5 for anyone else. So time to turn our attentions then to this week's podcast predictions. Stevenage, who were in a good vein of form coming into to this one. Clive, who is not with us this week, you may have noticed, that's because he's in the middle of the sea somewhere on a cruise. He has submitted his prediction, though, and he thinks we'll win 2-1, and he's chosen Liam Roberts as his player of the match's fantasy captain. I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory, and I'm going to choose McDonnell as my fantasy captain. Cam, win, lose, or draw?
Win.
And what will be the score?
1-0.
And who will be your hero to make sure you don't score 0?
Liam Roberts.
Alan, over to you.
Win 2-1, Will Evans.
Excellent. As always, if you want to play along at home, you can do so via the link in the description. And you must do what, Cam?
Submit your predictions and your captain. An hour and 15 or hour and 16. An hour and 16
Wrong.
What? Go on.
90 minutes.
90 minutes.
Not doing none of this maths bullshit. 90. It's a solid 90 minutes. It's easier for everyone to work out. Solid 90 minutes before kickoff. We're not doing any of that. We're not doing any of that nonsense. 90 minutes before kickoff. I mean, even though I don't do it, and Ben will probably allow it. No, 90 minutes before kickoff, and not a second after. Just easy to remember, innit? Just easy to remember. So there you go.
90 minutes, hour and a half, can't go wrong.
Yeah, and remember that you cannot pick the same fantasy captain 2 games in a row. If you do, you will get penalised. As people keep forgetting, but I don't care.
I can't remember what I did yesterday. Never mind, a week ago.
That's why I've got a notebook, mate. I'll write it down. Yeah, I'll write it down. So there you go. But I'm not there to remember. I'm not there to remember your predictions. You're responsible for your own actions, and God help the rest of us. Yeah. Right, that's almost all we've got time for this week. Obviously, Stevenage on Saturday, Alan. Then. Big test, really. They're a good side, like Cam mentioned earlier. They've sort of dug the heels in a little bit. I think everyone was expecting after Big Steve, who's been on, as much as we dislike him for being a snake and for doing what he did leaving us, he's had a tremendous weight loss journey. He's shared a little bit, opened up about that recently. So fair play to him on that front. But Reigns, we're good to Racers. They've got some weight loss. They've got some weight loss stuff. And fair play to him for that. But we expected Stevenage once he left, once he left there, to sort of drop like a stone a little bit and be, impacted by large finances, etc., etc. They've actually done the opposite, haven't they? They had a stable season last year, and they've pushing again. They made some decent signings in the summer. They've got, they've managed to hold on to a good talent in Jamie Reid. They're not a bad little setup down there, are they? They're a decent little club.
No, it'll be interesting Saturday. I think whoever he puts out, I'm hoping he'll play a back 4 system again, and we'll get McDonnell and Reid, if Reid's fully fit, to partner him. Let's see Tyler Roberts in there somewhere along the line. I'm sure he will be, as well as Don Dwyer. But it's that early goal, Craig. Always settle. I've always said it, and I'll say it forever and a day. Always settles Mansfield down, and we'll play a lot better if we get that early goal for us. Yeah,
and it would do us the world of good, wouldn't it, Cam, to sort of bounce back after losing at Wycombe and losing in the cup midweek and things like that, and with players missing, do us the world of good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And we don't need to hear from Cam. Right, that's all we've got time for this week. Thanks, as always, for getting involved. We'd love to have you on the show. Listen, it might be a different setup, mate, but I'm still going to do it. You got to know the joke every week, Cam. Got to know the joke every week.
Yes.
There we go. Right, thanks so much for joining us as ever. We will. I've just seen what you've just written in the chat. Cam. Who's your favourite Stags player of all time? If you could name your favourite Stags player of all time, what would you say?
Are you actually going to let me answer?
Who would you say? Of course I am. Yeah, 100%. Who would you say? Well, who would you say? What would you say? Who would you say?
You're going to kick me out.
No. I'm going to give Alan. Who would you say?
George Foster.
So Cam, I'd have to let Alan answer. What are you going to say? What's you're going to say?
Alan Marriott.
No.
I got it in.
Damn it.
Yes.
Oh dear.
In, out, shake it up.
Cam, what's the correct name of the Bishop Street stand?
The JB9 Memorial Stand or something. I don't know what you were listening. Something Jordan.
Oh, shut up. I've had enough of him. Right, that's all we've got time for this week. Right, we will see you next week on the Mansfield Matters podcast. I'll press this button and see what happens. Shall I? Wave bye. Wave bye, everyone. Wave bye. Wave bye. Wave bye.
Sadly, that's all we've got time for on this week's Mansfield Matters podcast. My thanks, as ever, to the Mansfield Matters podcast panel, and of course to you guys at home for watching and for listening. Don't forget, if you want to get involved with podcast predictions, you can do so right now. The link that you need is in the description. A reminder that you must submit your vote no later than 90 minutes before kick-off on Saturday afternoon as the Stags welcome Stevenage to Wycombe Stadium. And make sure you drop us a follow on all things social media. We're at MTFC Matters to find out when we're next going to be live, so you guys can come and join the discussion next week on the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters podcast. Right, I'm off to start a petition. The Jordan Barry Bishop Street stand will happen. You heard it here first, folks. Sorry, John and Carolyn. It just has to be. Good night.